in this day and age when we're being overrun by Muslim radicals in this country. Muslim radicals like Rauf who want to build a victory mosque at Ground Zero. Now let me take the biggest threat from the top down, and that's the cultural threat, the sweeping away of hundreds of years of American tradition built upon 1,000 years of Christian tradition being swept aside by the vermin left in this country, by the liberal elite who run this country, and by the Muslim fanatics who are acting like lambs when most of them are lions in disguise. Now, today, something happened interesting in France. You say France, you think liberal France. It is. France is, by any definition, a liberal nation. The French Senate passed a ban on the full Muslim veil. French Senate has voted overwhelmingly for a bill banning the burqa-style Islamic veil everywhere, from post offices to streets, in a final step toward making it a law. The Senate in France voted 246-1 on Tuesday in favor of the bill, which is already passed in the lower chamber of the National Assembly. Now, you would think that CNN would cover that to show you the threat of Islam to the European, even the liberal European, has awakened to the threat of Islam. But not here in America. They're talking about spaghetti and meatballs. You know, there's an interesting article today in the New York Post by Michael Goodwin entitled, Extremist Lion in Moderate Lamb's Clothing. And he opens like this. He's talking about Rauf, the operator at the Ground Zero Mosque. I'm not calling him Imam. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm not saying Imam anymore. It's not English, number one. Number two, the guy's a PR agent. So stop with the Imam jargon already. Stop already with the saluting him. Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Take a look at his properties in New Jersey and see what they're doing with his New Jersey, the tenants are saying about this Imam Rauf. Anyway, Goodwin starts like this. He says, there's a story about a midi zookeeper who insists he can get the lion and lamb to lie down together each night. An incredulous visitor asks how. Easy, the zookeeper says. I just bring in a new lamb each morning. Faisal Abdul Rauf, he says, reminds me of the zookeeper. I'm not sure he would get the joke or even realize it is a joke, and that's the problem. And he goes into what this character has said over the years. He says one thing to American liberal idiots, the useful idiots like Bloomberg, which proves beyond a reasonable doubt that a billionaire can also be a fool. And then he says something else in Arabic when he's touring with his co-religionists. And one of the things that this Rauf character said over the years was heard the other night at the Council on Foreign Relations, a left-wing front group. Now, this is a left-wing front group, CFR, it always has been, but even they have a few people in it who understand the danger of Islam, that Islam poses to the West, right? So, he writes that the most revealing moment came the other night when Council President Richard Haas asked the overarching question of why Muslims make up nearly all of the world's most dangerous terrorists. The Rauf character choked on the answer. He talked about a witch's brew of political and religious issues, but he started with a predictable non sequitur, the Israeli-Palestinian standoff. Then it was off to citing American troops in Muslim lands, the alienation of Muslim minorities in Europe and the U.S., and then he said there were church-state issues in Muslim nations, and that was it. Not once did Rauf express any gratitude for the millions of Muslims liberated from their tyrannical co-religionists by the West, or for the sacrifice of American blood and treasure. Nor did he make an effort to explain the habits of suicide bombers, beheadings, and terror attacks on civilians around the globe by Islamic fundamentalists. So there it is. French Senate passes ban of full Muslim veils, and Rauf, who poses as a lamb, is in fact a lion. And our director of Homeland Security goes on CNN and is asked what her favorite food is and laughs at her own description of it being spaghetti and meatballs. I rest my case, ladies and gentlemen. I'll open myself up to callers on the Savage Nation, the phone number being 1-800-449-8255, 1-800-449-8255. Today being Tuesday and part of the new American format on the Savage Nation, I want to do a little bit about books or movies or whatever, and I have a real treat for you today on the program, and that is some original recordings of the great American writer Jack Kerouac, dating back to 1959, which we'll get to a little later. Remember last week when I played some of Henry Miller, how you were touched by it? Well, today we're going to do some Jack Kerouac on Tuesday. That's what the day is. Now let's go to some of the tape I have. We have Rauf speaking at the CFR on the Ground Zero Mosque controversy. Do we have that exact one when he's asked about that? If not, we don't. We have another one of Rauf. We do have the one I asked for. Can we ask for 26, please? This is Rauf.
In recent days, some people have asked, is there really a need for an Islamic community center in Lower Manhattan? Is it worth all this firestorm? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is a categorical yes. Why? Because this center will be a place for all faiths to come together as partners, as stakeholders, in mutual respect. It will bring honor.
All right, to the knock it off. I've heard this crap before. Hey, Rauf, why don't you work and lobby for a church in Saudi Arabia? If you really cared about interfaith cooperation, if you really wanted all faiths to come together, you use your genius and your golden tongue to talk to King Faisal about permitting Bibles to be brought into Saudi Arabia. I don't buy a word of this operator. Not one word out of this operator's mouth is trustworthy, okay? That's my opinion. And I don't care what your opinion is. How's that? Michelle in Indiana, go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation. I care about your opinion. What is it?
Yeah, Rauf sounds like Oksana, and I'm feeling like Mel Gibson. Only I've never been.
Wait, Rauf sounds like Mel Gibson's wife?
No, yes, Rauf. He's all calm and collected, and he knows the passion we're feeling, and he's.
I see. He's trying to provoke anger to sound reasonable.
Yeah, he reminds me of the tape, of Oksana.
I see. So he's provoking America into rage, and he continues to speak in this calm con man voice. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He's entitled to his game playing, and I'm entitled to my rage. How's that? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
Good. Thank you. Now, look, I have another good tape for you. I have to take my hat off to Rudy Giuliani, who I have not been a big fan of. He did great work when he was mayor. I didn't like anything he did ever since mayorship, and I've said that. But he's really the only national politician next to the Newt Gingrich who's come out on the right side of this Ground Zero Mosque issue. Okay? Listen to clip 1.
If we moved from that location, the story will be that the radicals have taken over the discourse. The headlines in the Muslim world will be that Islam is under attack. And I'm less concerned about the radicals in America than I'm concerned about the radicals in the Muslim world.
Hold on. So in other words, that was a threat. I've seen this before. During the 60s, the leftists would threaten that if they didn't get their way on campuses, they couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be violence from the extremists amongst them. That goes back to the Black Panthers. Oh, well, I'm a reasonable man, but we can't control those Black Panthers, or we can't control the bomb throwers on the left. I wouldn't do it, but, we can't guarantee the safety of the campus building. Hey, Rauf, I don't know who's advising you, but you better get another script because none of it is playing out in America. Even a moderate like Giuliani answers you. Listen to clip 2.
I analyzed this imam's history pretty carefully. And I hate to simplify it, but it's the only way to do it. There's the good imam and the bad imam. The good imam is about reconciliation. He's about being open and transparent about what he's doing and how he's doing it. Then there's the bad imam who said America is an accessory to September 11. America has more Muslim blood on its hands than vice versa. He can't condemn Hamas as a terrorist group. And he will not be transparent about where he's getting the money, how he's getting the money, and has virtually not been open at all about this. And now we have the imam who tells us if he doesn't get his way, there could be a significant and very dangerous violence.
Good for you, Mr. Giuliani. You're an ex-prosecutor, and now you're speaking for the average American who knows exactly what this man is trying to do to this country. He knows exactly to this nation. Notice that is something that Rauf has achieved. I'll tell you what Rauf has achieved, which is the exact opposite of what he thinks he's achieved. Rauf has now blurred the line between extremists in the Muslim world and the Muslim world in general. We, the American people, now don't know the difference. I'll be right back.
Savage.
He seems, by his actions, to be more interested in confrontation than in healing. I actually, if you go on with the rest of that quote, I was talking about the Pope and the issue that he faced several years ago with a convent outside of Auschwitz. There was a convent there, perfect right to have it. Many people in the Jewish community felt it was insensitive. The Pope and the nuns could have said, we're going to stay there. We have a right to do it. Let's have that confrontation. Bring it on. The Pope, being a man of healing, wanting not to make things more painful for people that have already had way too much pain, said, let's withdraw. Let's pull it back.
See, Giuliani is a clear thinker. This is the Giuliani we all loved way back when, before he tried to make it on the national stage and listen to the idiots who misadvised him and told him to play the liberal Giuliani, and he lost. You know, he says there's a good Imam and a bad Imam. I say there's a real Giuliani and a liberal Giuliani. And the real Giuliani is the leader that we all want. So the day he gets rid of those schmucks who advised him when he ran for the presidency, the better off this country will be, because we need a real prosecutor who understands what organized crime is. And let me tell you something. There's not a big difference between organized crime and some aspects of some organized religions. All right? Do I have to spell it out for you? 1-800-449-8255, michaelsavage.com. Michael Savage. I don't know if that's my name anymore. I don't know what my name is. So we have Big Sis, the Department of Homeland Security. Instead of worrying about Imam Rauf and his background and who's funding him and whether it's coming from enemies of America, she's talking about spaghetti and meatballs with another fatso on CNN. It's unbelievable to me. Now, you know, being fat is not a crime. Let me tell you something. It's not even immoral. But you know something? I'll tell you a little story about fatness. I'll tell you a little story. I remember when I was a young guy and slim and in great shape, I was traveling the country in some capacity in a textbook company. And there was a very nice lady who traveled from the publishing company with me. And I went on the road, and I was a sensitive young guy in some ways. I don't know, as I gave a presentation. And one of the school board people was a son of a gun, evil, mean, went out of his way to nail me on everything I said. He was just trying to make me squirm. I was 22 years old, and it made me very uncomfortable, you know, try to screw up my presentation to the school board. And this woman came to my defense, and she said to him, you know, you take a look at your stomach, she said to him, hanging out of over your belt. She said, there's something about slovenliness and a lack of character. That's what she said to him. So I never forgot that. You know, time and gravity catches up with all of us. I don't mean to get sidetracked, but, you know, life is full of surprises. But when we'd have $1 trillion or a multi-trillion-dollar organization called the Department of Homeland Security, run by a woman as incompetent as Janet Napolitano, who has failed on every attempted terrorist event in her entire tenure, and she still has her job, that says more about Obama than it does about her. And it says more about the American people and that Dutchman who flew across the aisles and stopped the underwear bomber. Remember, every one of the attempted terrorist attacks was stopped not by the Department of Homeland Security, not by the FBI, not by the U.S. military, but by ordinary citizens. That shows you the shape this country is in, the mess we are in under the professor. The professor. San Diego Lorenzo, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Thank you so much. And I was a lifelong liberal. I was a lifelong radical almost. And when Obama came in, I thought the world was going to change. But let me tell you, I used to listen to you just for laughing. And everything you said came true. It was all true. They all were lies, prima donnas. They don't. How could anyone want to allow a mosque to be built on that site?
Well, I would say if the imam, so-called imam, which I don't see any religion in him, I see nothing but a PR agent with a golden tongue, it has backfired on him because he has now blurred the distinction, as I said earlier, between the radicals in Islam and the so-called moderates like him. He's made most Americans who are looking at this situation now. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. And
Lorenzo, you know, I got to tell you this. I'm going to send you. I don't have it now. You are such a lucky man. If you'll stay in a line, we're going to get your name. I'm going to put it in a list. I'm giving you a free copy of my new book, Trickle Up Poverty. I'm only 3 weeks away from launch. You say, what does this have to do with the imam? Because I'm trying to tell you that my book is not just about the economic downfall of America under Obama. But when I say trickle up poverty, I mean he has impoverished the military. He has impoverished our national security. He has tried to destroy NASA. He's tried to destroy our nuclear stockpile. I'm the only author in the world who has it all documented in Trickle Up Poverty. You could only buy it on Amazon right now, soon in every store in the country.
Savage.